Hello, good morning. I love Jenny's intro. Um, yeah, I think some people don't know I hate standing in front of crowds. Um, I look like I can, be in the crowd, but I do not like being in front of the crowd. But yeah, so I think in September, Eugene was, she's been pestering me. Actually, it's Corey started last year. She was like, "Oh, Yumi, do you want to give a message at church?" And I was like, "No, I have a baby." And then this year, Eugene was like, "Do you want to give a message?" I was like, "Yeah, no, I'm not ready." And then she said, "God is calling you to speak." And I was like, gaslighting, but okay. Yeah, so I thought, okay, what should I share? I think mainly sharing in front of people. I think there's a part where Father said, if you stand in front of people, it's like life or death because you don't know how the message that you're going to share is going to be received or what people are going through. So I was contemplating about what to talk about. And, with the current environment and feeling in the church with what's going on in Korea with True Mother, I was like, I must talk about True Mother. That's the most important. But then I said, like, there's a lot of emotion and feeling that goes on with that. And I know mother's been saying for us to not just be to stand strong and do the right thing, but also to just continue being better and doing ourselves and testifying of who we are. Sorry, I have my phone because I'm going to use the Bible later. So, yeah. So, yeah. So, my title for today, which led me to talk about surrender. I know people don't like that word. It's surrender. Ooh. No. Yeah. Because if you think of the word surrender, you think of like the military, you're fighting, and then one part says, "Oh no, sorry, we give up, you're going to defeat us," and then they surrender. And the part is, when somebody tells you, you need to surrender everything to God's feet. Like the song we're singing, it's very songs of like let go, let God come through, but it's not always easy because you know most times we want to have control of everything. We know, like, oh, God is there, but if I can control, God can be there, but I need to control the thing. It's not always like God is, we know that God is there with us, but our joy is if I can control, I think it will go well or better because why? Yeah. Yeah. Amen. That's one of my favorite songs actually. So the spirit lead me. Yeah. So yeah. So one of the lessons I've learned for surrender, there's a verse in the Bible, I think in Proverbs, that say, lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge me, and he will set your path straight. And that verse itself, when it talks about surrender, the first lesson that comes to mind is trust. And when we think of the word trust, what comes up is it's easier to trust what you know and who you know. If you meet a stranger on the road and they say, okay, I need you, if you change this money, I'm going to give you $1 million. And you're just like, this is a weirdo and a creep, stay away from me. But, but if, let's say you're walking and then you bump into who? Akiko-san. And she says, oh, if you change this, I'm going to give you money. So, of course, it's Akiko-san. Why will I not? Like, she's an auntie, I know where she is. If anything goes wrong, I'll go to her house and find her. Like, you know. If she steals my money, I know her location, I'm going for her. But if it's a stranger or someone you don't know, you're more cautious, you're more wary, you're, like, a part of you feels like, I want that thing, but this person, I'm not so sure of who they are. So first lesson for surrender, when I think of that, it comes with trust. And trust is what you know. I think the hardship is when we don't take the time to kind of like reflect on our life and know who God is. It's like we know God, but then when it comes to, I need to put this in God's hand, we forget that the same God we are asking for this thing or we're asking for this situation to be resolved, we forget that that's the same God who's carried us through the previous things we asked for. It's like this one instant is like, oh, I don't know if I should ask God for I'm not sure if God will come through for me now. But we forget that it's the same God who's carried us through all the other times we asked. Yeah. And it's an interesting interesting part of the Bible. I think many of you have heard this story. It's about Abraham and Sarah. But this one I found it interesting because of the results. So it says three visitors. So I think there were angels that God sent to appear before Abraham. And many times in the Bible, God doesn't reveal himself like an angel always. It's always God sends these men to visit, this person. And then the reception that they receive is through that God grants his blessing. So in this one, God says, the Lord appeared to Abraham near the great trees of Mamre when he was sitting at the entrance to his tent in the heat of the day. Abraham looked up and saw three men standing nearby. When he saw them, he hurried from the entrance of his tent to meet them and bowed low to the ground. He said, "If I have found favor in your eyes, my Lord, do not pass your servant by. Let a little water be brought, and then you may all wash your feet and rest under this tree. Let me get you something to eat so you can be refreshed, and then go on your way." "Very well," they said, "do as you say." So Abraham hurried into the tent to Sarah. "Quick, get 3 seahs of the finest flour and knead it and bake some bread." Then he ran to the hearth and selected a choice, tender calf and gave it to a servant who hurried to prepare it. He then brought some curds and milk and the calf that had been prepared and set this before them while they ate. He stood near them under a tree. "Where is your wife Sarah?" they asked him. "There, in the tent," he said. Then one of them said, "I will surely return to you about this time next year, and Sarah your wife will have a son." Now Sarah was listening at the entrance of the tent. She was eavesdropping, basically. Abraham and Sarah were very old already, and Sarah was already past the age of childbearing. And then Sarah laughed and said to herself, as she thought, "After I am worn out and the Lord is and my Lord is old, now I will have this pleasure." Then the Lord said to Abraham, "Why did Sarah laugh and say, 'Will I really have a child now that I am old?' Is anything too hard for the Lord? I will return to you at the appointed time next year, and Sarah will have a son." So Sarah was afraid, so she lied and said, "I did not laugh." But God said, "Yes, you did." So basically, and if in the context at this time, Sarah was, according to the Bible, Sarah was already old. I'm sure she prayed and prayed to have a child. She even gave her maid servant Hagar to have a child with Abraham. Like she was done. Her trust in God was like, this person that delivered us from all those things, now when I need God to come through for me and give me a child, I've been a laughing stock. I don't have a child. And then these random men are saying, "I will have a child next year, this time." No way. But then, but that's usually the reaction. It's like, how do I trust this? Like, how do I put my trust in God at this time when the desire of my heart has not been granted to me? And God instantly it's not always the same. In that instant, God called her out and said, "Why did you laugh? Like, are you not trusting that I can do it?" And she was like, "Oh, no, wait. Oh, let me say I did not laugh." But she did. And that's usually all of our reactions sometimes. You trust God for something and then it doesn't come when you want it to come, but it comes later. Or someone says, "Oh, that thing that you need, it's finally, and then you're just like, "No, I don't think so." It's like God is reminding you that I will do it in my time, not in your time, in my time. So that's the part where I think is a bit hard for surrender. Just getting to a space where you just trust God. But then the second part is letting go. I think trusting can be easy, but letting go of control can be hard. Like in this instance, Sarah wanted to have a baby according to her time frame. She's old. She's like, "I'm 70 something. Why will I be chasing a toddler? Like, that is not my plan. I wanted to be a grandma by this point." But for her, God decided, your time to be a parent is when I say is your time to be a parent, not when you decide. I think the letting go part is a bit hard. And I was reflecting on that, and I was trying to think of, like, many of our elder brothers and sisters, when you joined the church in the very beginning, obviously your parents didn't trust some of you to come. Some of you just said, "I'm just going to go. Whatever happens, happens," But also, I'm sure it was very hard, True Father is preaching something, True Mother is sharing something, and this message is calling to you, but there's a part of the world that's that's familiar. Like I want that, but also, my parents think I'm crazy. Let me have one foot in the truth and one foot in the, just in case this one doesn't work. I'll have a landing, And many, I've heard from some uncles who were sharing when father told them to, like, you quit your job and go and do mission work. And one of the friends was sharing how I think her dad at the time was working very high up in a bank when he joined the church. And she never could understand, like, why would he leave such a amazing job and just do this mission thing for 3 years and not get paid? And, because he was, for them, her growing up in this kind of family, she didn't understand why her dad would make that kind of choice, just let go of everything and say, I'm doing this path. And because her parents came with her, she always looked at the church like, this place just makes people poor. Because for her, she's like, we had a good life. Why would my parent let go of that and come? I think over the years, she was explaining to me, she looks back and she realized, like, that choice that her dad did, like, the company her dad used to work for is no longer there anymore. So she's like, oh, maybe God was saving my dad from getting fired. Like the dad's decision to just, father says, commit to this thing. I don't know what's happening. I'm trusting God. It's unfamiliar, but I'm going to commit and I'm going to do it. I'm going to let go of control. And I think that's the hard part. Just letting go of control sometimes can be hard, but the beauty of it is, like, now we're in the season of fall. Let it go of control. If the leaves hang onto the trees, I'm going to stay. We can see it's dying, but it's like, I'm staying on this tree because it is my tree and I'm never letting go. Then we won't have fall. And then if we don't have fall, then we don't have winter. Like, the seasons won't come. But because the leaves, like, they naturally say, it's my time to go now. They drop. And the joy for us is like, oh my gosh, it's fall. And then we play with the foliage and we take all these cute pictures and we forget the leaves didn't want to fall down. We're enjoying the leaves, but the leaves were struggling. They were there like, I was green and now I'm this weird color and I have to go. And then I'm going to come back next year. Like, they don't come back. It's new leaves. This one's technically, they're dying, But they trust nature enough to know, like, my time's up and it's time for someone else to take over. And because of that, then we get to enjoy fall. We get to take all these cute pictures and be in the presence of beautiful nature. And I think in a small way, nature is reminding us sometimes it's just, you don't have to know the full picture. You just need to have a willing heart. God is not calling you to understand. I need to know. Tell me the plan A to Z. Oh, no. Distractions. Yeah. God is not calling us to understand the full picture. God is just calling us to just have a willing heart. Just say, yes, I'm going to let go. I'm going to do it. And, as a result of that, in the instance of Sarah and Abraham, even though Sarah laughed, I'm sure in her heart she had just a spark of hope, like, okay, maybe next year this time I'll be a mom. Maybe. Even though this is ridiculous. And the next year, that time, she was a mom. And, she was able to, I'm sure she looked back and she was like, why was I even laughing? Like, why didn't I trust God? I'm sure she even forgot that she did all that and she was enjoying being a parent. And that's also one thing that leads to surrender. It's like, the moment you answer the call, you trust God, you let go, it always leads to transformation. There's always something on the other side. You don't have to understand it. You don't have to make sense of everything, but there's transformation on the other side. Like everybody likes butterflies. You was like, oh my gosh, you're so cute. But you rarely look at a caterpillar and be like, that is so cute. Very strange people do. I'm just saying, if you look at a caterpillar, you're always like, oh, get the squish it, move it away, squish that. It's, I do that. That's what I'm saying. If I see it, I'm like, why is it, move it over there, But then you forget that this little caterpillar, it's not beautiful. It's not, you see the butterfly, you forget that it was here, You're just like, this part I don't like. This part I like. But there's an in-between, When the caterpillar decides nature's taking its course and it has to be in a cocoon and it needs to stay in there, if it fights that stage, it dies. So it has to surrender to that space, stay in that cocoon for as long as possible. Nobody knows. I don't think they've ever put like a camera in their cocoon and like, what happens in this transformation period? No, it's in there. We just see the cocoon break and then out comes a butterfly. No one has ever asked the caterpillar, how do you feel now that you're a butterfly? No. It was like, why are you a caterpillar? Like, well, it's one of those. Like, anytime I see him, I'm like, it's hairy and weird. But I'm like, oh my gosh, Eli, look, a butterfly. You know? So I have to change that. We need to do better. But, but that's in essence. It's like we want the transformation. We want to be on the other side without the letting go, without the doing the work. Because even in the transformation, it's work. Something has to happen in that space for you to come out to the other side. You have to put your trust in God. You have to put in the work. You have to make an effort. Then you get to the other side, For example, like many of the families, you have to put in the work, because many times we talk about the blessing, like, we're going to go for the blessing, and then the end. But you're forgetting, like, that's the caterpillar stage, That's the caterpillar stage. The transformation is when people look at your life, look at your children, look at your grandchildren, and when you go to spiritual, they're like, oh my gosh, she lived a very full life. The blessing part, that's when everyone wants to go to. But then it's on the other side where you have to be like, oh no, I have to love this person. They're annoying. And then have to, and you're forgetting they think the same thing about you. They're, oh my gosh, so annoying. He leaves his socks there. And you're complaining. I put the thing here and he moved it from here to here. Meanwhile, he's like, why did she move it from here to here? But like that's the work. You both have to die to your desires to make something. Like, this is a new thing. I was talking to somebody and they said a relationship is you, the man, the woman, and then the relationship. That's a different entity. It's not you two. You as an individual, your person as an individual, and the relationship as an entity. What does the relationship feel like? Is your relationship healthy? Is it struggling? Does it have fractures in it? Like, what is that? That made me realize, oh yeah, the amount of work I put into it, it's like another baby. If you have 4 kids, that's your 5th child. Most likely that's your first child, but we forget that part. It's your eldest child that you have to, because if you don't take care of it, then these others are not going to work out. So you have to take care of this one, make sure this one is okay and it's fine. And that means butting heads a lot, being like, okay, he likes to sleep at 9, I want to sleep at midnight, but we need to compromise and sleep at 10. And then we have to wake up. Like, he's a let's pray in the morning person, she's a let's pray at night person, and you're just like, let's play at lunchtime. Okay? We have to pray at some point, so let's just pray. Let's find a middle ground where we both get to pray. He likes to do this, she likes to do this. How do we each let go of, I have to control something, and let go and come together and say this, to make this work, to make this successful, then we both have to let go of something so that people can look at us and say, oh yeah, that's a beautiful couple, that's a beautiful family. And it's not always easy. People see the result, but they forget that, the cocoon, the murky waters, the struggles, the strife, the prayers, the tears, all that stuff. They just celebrate the results. Like the butterfly, you just celebrate oh my gosh, it's a beautiful butterfly. You forget all the other parts. So, yeah. So my takeaway from today is, the Bible verse that says, "Be still and know that I am God," and the still part is not to be patient. Is more like kind of like be at peace. Like when you decide to make a transformation, October to December is the last quarter of the year. It's fall. It's when we are reflecting. There's all this, we're slowly losing sunlight, so it's going to get cold soon. So we want to do all these things in the sunlight, all the parks, everything, Halloween, Thanksgiving, everything before it gets cold, and then we hide. But it's also a time for us to take the time to take stock of the year. Like, how was my January and my February and my March, and what has happened as an individual, as a couple, as a family, as a movement. Now we're in that stage where we are uncertain of where things will be, and we feel like we want to control and tell the world this is wrong, leave mother alone. But then there are some things which we can't physically go to the mother's detention and yank her out of there, because that will be breaking another law. What we can do is we can pray, we can hope, we can testify, we can follow Reverend Dunkley. He's on X, he's on Twitter, no, X is Twitter. Anyway, X and Instagram and Facebook, and go there and share and not argue with people, because it's not our business to argue. It's not our place to over defend. It's just for us to testify of what we know. That's what we can do. That's our offering of surrender and trusting God and saying, at the end of this, what's the transformation? What will come out of it? We are angry, we are sad, we are frustrated, we are, sometimes I'm like, if that prosecutor comes in front of me, I'll just punch his face. But then I'm like, he's also God's son. He also needs saving. Even in all this frustration, he's doing his job the way he knows to do it, even if it's, in our eyes, it's not the right way. But what can we do for True Mother is be in a space where we tell God, we don't have the full picture. We don't even want to have the full picture. We just want to have a heart that's willing to listen to what True Parents are saying, to go forth and represent as best as we can, and then just hope that God will take the rest. So, yeah. So my question for you is, what in your life are you holding on to? I'm not saying what in your husband's life, what in your children's life, what in you as me as Yumi, as Kevin, what in Kevin's life? My mom has to just stop telling me. No, that's her business. Me as Kevin, what in my life do I need to let go so that God can work more effectively? Yeah. Don't leave the church out of it, leave your children out of it. I know it's always hard to just look at yourself and say, oh, these are my traits. I don't like them. But you have to. It's October, November, December. If you want to make a transformation, this is the last good months, because everyone in January like, new year, new me. No, it starts now. New year, new me is from October. Because if you don't start now, January you'll be stressed, and then by March you give up on the new year, new me. Then you start again, new year, new me, 2027. So new year, new me, we start planning for the new year, new me now. So what in my life should I let go of to allow God's space to work within my heart? So you can take 5 minutes to reflect, and then, well, that's a long time. Reflect, give you a minute to reflect, and then if you can turn to the next person, and if you're willing to share. If it's nothing too personal, you can share. What in my life am I willing to let go of to be able to let God to work in my life? Yeah. Take your time. I don't have, Nathan, do you have some meditation, calming music for people to reflect? Yeah, I'm going to put a timer for a minute. That's for you to reflect, and then the next will be you talking to someone. Okay. Now turn to your partner, or your friend, whoever's next to you, and if you feel like you want to still reflect. If you feel called to share with the person next to you, please do so. Yeah. All right. Thank you. Um, yeah. Thank you. Thank you. You may continue your discussions together over. I don't know if there's lunch, but there's lunch. Okay. Yeah, you may continue discussions anytime during the week. You can call each other and talk. You can journal. You can pray about it. Yeah, I think the prompt of the question was just, it's just like a reminder. Yeah, Eugene was just sharing how sometimes she exists in a state of things are just happening. They're just happening, and you're just going with the flow, and she made a point that sometimes the word surrender feels like you're giving up, but it's actually the opposite. Surrender technique, for me at least, ideally it means you're not carrying the weight of everything by yourself. You're still caring, you're still concerned about this thing, you're just not carrying the weight of it by yourself. God is with you, your ancestors are with you. If you have trust that God has carried you this far, so there's evidence of God's hand in your life. There's lessons that you can glean from when you let go, from when you did things on your own, and when God did things with you. And then there's always something at the end of it. Like when you trust God for something, the transformation is always there, and it's better than when you do it by yourself. Yeah. So I hope that if nothing else you took from this, go home and reflect on what am I holding on that I shouldn't hold on to. Yeah. So thank you so much for listening to me today. Have a blessed week.